Hi guys, hope wherever you are and whatever you've been doing, you've had a super sensational day. Well, I think we'd all agree that not all of us are morning people, children included. The recent cold snap doesn't help and only adds to the challenge of getting the kids out the door and to school on time. But have you ever thought how the start of the day affects your child at school? Well, tonight we're joined by our special guest, Amy, from the Teachers Coach, who will share 3 simple tips to help you start your day right and ensure that the kids are ready to learn with a smile on their face. So how do we start our day really does set us up for how the rest of our day runs, which is why starting the day right is essential for your child before they head out to school and to fill up their beautiful mind with information that we hope that they will retain and will serve them for the rest of their life. So how can we actually make our children set up for a successful day at school? Well, Amy's actually here to help us find out how. Now, Amy is a founder of the Teachers Coach and is passionate about education, but also understands firsthand the pressures and the challenges and the extreme workload that comes from being a teacher or an employee of the service industry. With a career in education and a background in teaching and coaching, she's just the right person to speak with. How are you, Amy?
Yeah, I'm well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
We're really excited to be partnered with you, and this is our first chat, and so everyone gets to see you for the very first time. So this is super exciting. And for everyone watching, we actually published your article titled "Starting the Day Right, Setting Your Child Up for a Successful Day." Now, for someone who hasn't read the article, could you give us a little bit of an overview of what the article's about and what inspired you to write it?
Yeah, sure, I'd love to. So I wrote this article. Actually, I was inspired by having done a morning duty, and part of that involves helping the kids get out of the car at school. And it's not uncommon to see poor little humans sitting in their car as they pull up to be dropped off to school, and I open the door and greet them with a smile, and they're like, I just don't want to get out. Or they're rushing breakfast into their face, or they're jumping out of the car and they don't know where their school bag is. And so I was reflecting on this, thinking, oh, these poor little people, they're coming to school and they're still tired, or they're eating, or they haven't eaten and they don't know where their school bag is, and they're already stressed and frazzled and they haven't even got in the classroom door yet. And having some conversations with other teachers around this and how do they find their students are starting the day, I kind of noticed that some seem to have some really successful morning routines, and others, they just are always following the same pattern and habit. And unfortunately, without a really conscious ritual and pattern and habit around how we start our day, we just tend to go through the motions. We don't think about how it's affecting us, and we can leave ourselves open to be caught in some kind of whirlwind. And so when this happens to students and children, the impact of that is much greater because they don't have the same opportunities as adults or the same thinking or cognitive ability to be able to reset and readjust. And so their potential to be successful at school is inhibited before they even come into the classroom. And I thought, you know what, I have to write something about this.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's a really great opportunity for us to be cognizant that as an adult, we have a greater chance to manage our way out of a bad day, much more so that as children do. And as you mentioned in the article, and quote unquote from the article, we can sneak away from our desk for some quiet time, or have another cup of coffee, or, maybe leave early for the day. And as you're saying, you can always make up for the next day. But children don't actually have these same options, which is, I guess, we don't think about this at all, do we, I guess?
No. Yeah, I think we tend to take for granted what we can do as adults and the freedom and the flexibility we have in our job. But, our students are stuck in classrooms. They've got to learn. They're expected to deliver. They can't just be like, oh, I'm a bit tired, so I'm just going to go for a walk out and sit in the sunshine for 10 minutes. Or not that anyone of them is going to say, can I go and get a cup of coffee? But they don't even have that option to have a break like we do. Or can I leave early today and I'll make up for it tomorrow? So we really do, I think, not quite understand the pressure on students when they walk into a classroom, and also the benefits we have of being an adult to control the situations around having a rough start to the day, whereas our students just have to get on with it.
Yeah, I think it's a really empathetic thing to do, definitely. And I want to quote just read some of the article out, because I think it's really mindful for us to be able to do this. For them, being the children, a bad start to the day still means going to school and sitting through lessons, learning and working with no escape, no quiet time, and certainly no extra coffee, as you just said, or sneaking out early.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, it means poor concentration, difficulty in learning, and even some extra tears throughout the day. So it's really, really, I think it's beautiful that you've seen this. And I think, as I said before, it's cognizant for us to be able to be mindful how we can ensure that we give them the best chance. So let's get stuck into the 3 key questions. So question number 1,
Let's do it.
what for you? You know, what it is about starting the day that matters?
I think we've touched on this briefly, but how you start the day will actually set you up for how you undertake the rest of your day. And we really don't pay enough attention to the morning routines and rituals we go through and how that sets us up for success.
Yeah.
So if we are to start a day where we are organised, we are on top of things, we are calm, we know where our lunchbox is and our bag is, and we've done our reader and everything's organised and our homework is taken care of, we know where our shoes are and we've got matching socks and everything like that is taken care of. As a little person, as a child, our morning is calm. You know, we can ease into it. We have time to wake up and to go through those routines. And that means when we walk out the door for school and when we get to school, our state of mind is in a place where it's ready to learn, it's open, it's feeling well nurtured and taken care of. Of course, the opposite of that is sleeping in and not being able to find your school shoes and, oh my goodness, where did we put the home reader, and we haven't done the homework and you need to do it while we quickly shovel some toast in your mouth. And it's that frazzled, chaotic stress that we all experience from time to time, but often for some people it can become the norm. And when that's your normal start to the day, for a child, that can send them into some kind of whirlwind in their mind when they're unable to pause and stop and take a breath. And so when they go into a classroom, essentially it can be their first moment where they can go, oh, I made it. But they're not ready to then take on the learning that they start to have to engage with straight away. And so they can very quickly get themselves hardened back into that stressed and overwhelmed and it's too hard and I can't do it state because of how they've started their day and because of their morning. So we can go about our day in the morning before we get to school being organised and calm and on top of things and ease into the classroom ready for learning in a way that really nurtures children. Or we can have that frantic, frazzled morning where we don't really think about how we start the day, which can, in return and unfortunately, contribute to a lot of the learning difficulties we might see or the lack of engagement or the tears. And I think having that morning routine and understanding what that looks like in your household is really important for setting your child up for success in school.
Yeah, and it's, you know, look, we think about as adults, we spend our whole life learning to control our mind and our emotions and control our day and our time and all those types of things, and we can sort of unravel our way, as we said earlier on, out of our emotions a lot easier than what a child can. So from that perspective, it is our job to ensure that we actually give them that chance and that framework to be able to do that. And when you think about it too, you know, 95% of a child's brain is developed by the age of 5. So especially for children, I guess where we are taking them to kindergarten or, you know, early learning centres, we don't want any of this sort of being part of, I guess, of their sort of cognitive wiring in their brain, that they start their days and it's a frazzled morning. I guess is something that through repetition that we can help sort of establish, well, this is how a morning sort of starts and this is how and why you'll have a better chance of just having a happier day, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you've got 3 great tips in the article too. Did you maybe just want to sort of unpack those for us, because I think they're really worthwhile mentioning?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first one really is about staying calm. So as we've mentioned, there's nothing worse than rocking up to work as adults feeling rushed and like we haven't been able to get ourselves organised in the morning. And to do that as a child, the impact of that is so much greater because they actually have zero control over what's happening.
Yeah.
And I think being able to stay calm in the mornings, it's actually something we have to teach ourselves to do. So if you are in the habit of having that rushed morning because you've built that in and that's just who you are, having an awareness of what your morning looks like and saying, you know what, I'm going to start to be calmer in the morning and really pay attention to my thinking around that is a shift in the right direction. So we want to really enable our students to be entering the classroom in a calm way so that they can be successful for learning. And that means as parents and as adults, we need to be modelling that. As you mentioned with teaching children habits about thinking, if we're showing and modeling to them that a morning should look chaotic, we're teaching them that that's what mornings are.
Yeah.
And so we need to be really aware and mindful of how we're starting that day as adults. So we're showing them you can be calm, you can kind of go through and be on top of that. But part of that is my second point, which is around being organised.
Yeah.
So I mentioned before about not being able to find shoes, or you can't find the reader, or you haven't done the homework. And this really comes down to having systems and routines in your household that you know and that your children know and everyone in the house knows. So this is where our shoes live. When we come in from school, we unpack our bag and this is where our lunchbox goes and this is where our home reader goes. And just by putting in a few little strategies and things like that, where you are reducing the anxiety around, I can't find this and I don't know where this is, and having systems in place that enable, I know it does sound a little bit silly, but success around finding your shoes because you know where they are. What you're able to do then is to reduce the flight, fight or freeze thinking that a child might have in the morning. So if they're disorganized and we're saying find your shoes and where's your reader and you haven't done your homework, they're instantly reacting with the part of the brain that sends them into flight, fight or freeze. And so we're teaching them that from the moment you wake up, that's the part of the brain you engage. When they go into the classroom, they start to repeat that same pattern of thinking when they're faced with learning that might be difficult or complex. And I think it's important to have awareness about how those early thinking patterns that we're teaching our children play out when it comes to learning. So by having that calmer and organised start to the day, you're teaching them the same thing to happen in the classroom, and it will play out that way as well, which ultimately just leads to successful learning.
Yeah.
And then the third point was about being happy. So you really do control your emotions as an adult. You're able to say, you know what, I just choose to be happy. Happy is a choice, or you can choose to be grumpy and miserable. I actually had a great thing yesterday. I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about managing different emotions, and the tip in that was to have a 5-minute window of anger or frustration or whatever negative emotion it might be if something pops up in your life. And I thought this was really insightful, so I'll share it with you. It was undoubtedly, because we're all human, things are going to happen where you feel an emotion that isn't resourceful, but it doesn't mean you have to stay in that place. Yep. So set a timer for 5 minutes, allow yourself to feel all of that emotion for 5 minutes, and when the timer goes off, it's done.
Yep.
And I thought, what an amazing thing to start to practice, not only as adults but children, because we can teach them that every emotion is valid and it's worthy and it shows up when it's needed, but we can also So what we're aiming to do with that 5 minutes is give ourselves a 5-minute window to feel all of those emotions that may come up, which is totally valid because we're only human, and part of being human is ensuring we go through the scale of all those different emotions. So we don't want to discourage or devalue anything like that. But we also don't want to teach our children and our students that we need to stay in those places of emotion for a really long time. So a 5-minute timer I thought was a great strategy because you can get it all out and you can feel it and you can talk about it if you want, and you can really give those emotions the validity that they deserve because they are there to remind us and keep us in check that we are human. And then once the timer goes off, you let it go and you can instantly change your mood, decide to be happy. And I think one of the easiest ways to do this, to kind of raise your vibration and start to be happy again, is through laughter and fun. So, you know, if you wake up in the morning and you're feeling a bit down, put on some great music and let that vibe through the house and go with that, or have a dance or tell a joke or just lighten up and start the mood of your day that way. Because by having a mood around your house that is light and happy and fun, your children will take that into the classroom, which means their learning is light and happy and fun. So instantly already we've created an environment and a way of thinking that's less stressful for them.
Yeah, I love your 3 points that you've given us. So the first one is start the day calm. Second is being organised is the key. And the third one's be happy. So they are serious.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's get stuck into question number 2. Now, how do I break the routine if I feel stuck?
Absolutely. I think, and it's totally fair if you're listening to this or reading it and you're like, oh my God, I'm that frazzled person, or I kind of do some of that and not all the time. I certainly used to be like that. I had no awareness around what my morning looked like at all. And from my own experience, I know that it certainly wasn't, I didn't wake up one morning and go, right, now I'm going to do all of these things and then my morning is going to be amazing. Because what you have to do is, it's not that easy, is you're actually retraining your brain to think a certain way. So whilst we are trying to model it for our children and do it that way, we're also teaching ourselves to do it. So there are really two elements here to this. So don't put pressure on yourself to feel like you have to do it all and be successful instantly, because it just won't happen. So if you're feeling stuck or you don't know where to start, just pick something that you can do tomorrow. That's easy. It could be a song. It could be, you know what, I'm going to get all of the school things out and line them up at the door ready to go. Or I'm going to pack the school bags so we know where they are in the morning. We don't have to spend 10 minutes packing them and finding them. It could be building a playlist with your kids so that when they wake up, they can hear their favourite tunes and you can listen to them together. So pick one thing that you can do now and do that for a week. And then add in something else the next week, and then add in something else the next week, until you feel that you've got a routine and a system that is working for you. And don't feel like you have to stick to it all the time. If something's not working, change it. If things aren't going the way you plan, that's okay. So be open to kind of taking feedback from your children as well. How are they going with it? Is it too much? Is it working for them? Have you noticed a change? And build that routine with them so that you can start to see those changes. And it's probably not a bad idea either to check in with their teacher. Like, what have you noticed at school in the morning? Have you noticed anything about their learning or how they're feeling? And get some feedback from them, let them know what you're doing, and work together on this, because this is about ensuring that we're setting up an environment that's successful for learning right from the minute they wake up.
Yeah. I always say the only way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. So don't look at the
one bite.
I'm not going to climb that whole mountain. I'm just going to take that.
Yeah.
And I think it's valid what you said too, is, you know, not all things are going to work. So just trial and error, and maybe say, okay, this week, like you said, I'm just going to maybe just start with music in the morning, or ensuring that all of their bags and their shoes are already pre-prepared the night before, or whatever it is. And trial and error, and then just maybe sort of add and sort of grow it from there, and sort of I mean, I think that's a really, really great way to look at it. And you know, Rome wasn't built in a day, and you can only do bit by bit. And the other thing is too, you don't want the kids to be overwhelmed as well. You have to sort of, I guess,
not at all. Yeah,
really valid point. Well, let's get stuck into question number 3. What do I do if my morning just doesn't go to plan?
I think it's really important to remember that no matter how much pressure we put on ourselves for things to be perfect in the way we want it, there are days where that just won't happen. You know, you could have a sick child and that's going to interrupt something, or you thought you put the school bag there and someone has moved it and it's not there, and where is it? Or you can't find the car key. Or maybe you wash your hair and like the hairdryer is just not cooperating. All kinds of things can happen that can throw your day out. And I think when this happens, it's an opportunity to laugh it off and just kind of, you know, you might have to muddle through one morning and that's okay. But what we don't want to happen is that it then becomes the new pattern or the routine. So just start again tomorrow if you need to, or take a deep breath, put a song on, have a dance, and then go, right, what do I need to do now that's over? Because there are going to be hiccups, there are going to be interruptions, and it won't run smoothly every day for the rest of your life. And I think as your kids get older and change as well, you know, if you've got teenagers or moving into teenagers, they're even harder to get out of bed. So it's about adapting as things go as well, and not trying to control everything so much. I think there's a difference with being organised and knowing what's happening, and then when you try and control everything down to the last minute, if that doesn't happen, your frustration can come back in. So be flexible and understanding and shake it off. We're just human. Mistakes will happen. Things won't go to plan. Life happens. That's how it is.
Well, and this is the thing that we know we only ever really grow where sort of through struggle and hardship and or a challenge. And I think it's really important for kids to be able to see that is life, and that
absolutely,
a parent's so as a child's first teacher, that you show them how in life that you can sort of, as following your points you said before, but remain calm and work through those situations. And it doesn't mean that everything is going to be chaos. Things can be chaos, but you can still be calm within you. And I think, you know,
that's right.
Only ever just lead by example, and it's a great opportunity to teach.
Yeah.
Your life, you know, even though we control our morning, you know, you walk out that door and the big bad world's out there and anything can happen sometimes. So I think it's just as important, I think, for kids to see the days that it doesn't go to plan, for how you can do it. I think it's a really healthy life lesson. Well, you've given us some incredible life lessons tonight. Now, if parents want to get in touch with you and or teachers and or anyone, who would you like to be able to get in touch with you? Is it teachers? Is it parents? Or, I mean, because you help all different kinds of people, I guess.
I do. I help all kinds of people. So I do a lot of work with teachers, also parents, and anyone in the service industry who might be feeling like life is stressful and overwhelmed. They want to have better work-life balance. They want to be able to spend more time with their family or friends, or be able to just live a life. I say to teachers, it's about living a life outside of the classroom. So if that resonates with you in any way, it could be living a life outside your office, then I think that I'd be able to support in that kind of area. So if that's you, then feel free to get in touch with me for sure.
And whereabouts can they find you?
So you can find me on www.theteacherscoach.com.au. You can find me on Facebook under The Teachers Coach, and then all of my socials are there too.
Sensational. Well, I've really enjoyed our chat tonight, and I've got some little key takeaways for myself as well. But thank you so much. Just can't wait to catch up again soon. Take care.
Thank you. Have a lovely evening. Thanks. Bye.